Welcome to Spiritually Raw, and I am Jay, and this is April. We're your hosts today and the creators of the Gnostic TV network and the 5D economy. And to learn more about our unique multidimensional method for manifesting and becoming a broadcaster on Gnostic TV, you can check out our links below or connect with us on Instagram at 5D_mystics. Join us today as we navigate the realms of consciousness with our special guest, Paul Christodoulou. You're absolutely going to love him. He's a host of special needs solutions for children born different, and it's going to be on YouTube, and the links will also be in the description below. Wow, what a service.
It is. And Paul, you're really such an incredible man, and we're honored to have you on. You are a distinguished attorney. You're a financial planner with 3 degrees, but most notably, you are a loving father of 3 beautiful children. Paul adopted his oldest son, Eddie, from Russia when Eddie was younger, and he has cerebral palsy. Now, Paul's mission today has really evolved, and he specializes in assisting families with special needs children. And his whole mission is really to ensure and to help parents and let them know to be fully, or how they can be fully equipped with the necessary education and the awareness of their various options to help them maximize not only the quality of their life, but also for the quality of their children's lives as well. So welcome to the show. We're so excited to have you on today, and you have a beautiful story and a beautiful mission.
How are you, brother? Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much for having me. Love you guys. You're amazing. I love your energy and can't wait to have this discussion.
Yeah, let's get in a rhythm together on this, because you really are making impact on and have committed a lot of your life for real service to humanity and people going through this. And in a sense, there, what's pretty profound, as April was reading the description, is as you talk about a child with special needs, that's not your biological child, yet you chose to say, "This is my child, and I will adopt him." Can you let us know on your mind where most people, when they're at a situation would, let's say, run, to put it bluntly, you have chose to stay? What was that?
You know, when I looked at Eddie, there was no decision to be made. His piercing blue eyes and great smile, loving smile, just reached out to me, and I had an instant connection with him. So for me, it wasn't really a decision. It was a present. It was a gift.
That's awesome. Good for you. Good for you. That's a great thought process on that. Tell us about, though, the dynamics of raising a special needs child. There's the challenges that goes along with that, the financials, the emotional struggle. How has this affected your family dynamic in general for you, and how you perceive it, and what it's done for you, what you go through, and where you're at with all of this now?
Yeah, it's a very non-traditional family because of the special needs child. The special needs child really adds a level of complexity and opportunity to the family. So everything's a little bit different than in a typical family. There's a lot of pressures. There's one thing I would say that you may not expect, a lot of people don't understand, is the day-to-day work required. And this is something that it's hard to understand until you're in it, because when you have a child that relies on you for everything, so think of all the things that you do every day, that brush your teeth, wash your hair, everything else, use their facilities, you have to do that for the child. And as soon as you're finished with the morning routine, the afternoon routine is starting, and it's 7 days a week. So that puts a lot of stress, and to quantify that, because I like numbers, as you can understand, 87% of families who have a disabled child, according to psychology today, end in divorce. And I want to try to help that.
You want to try to help that?
There's also not only the stress of between a marriage, I would imagine, there's a huge financial burden. And I know you've been through a lot of it. Can you help us understand what you've been through and how you're able to help other families navigate the financial side of it so they can get the quality care that they need? What are their options?
There are a lot of options, depending, of course, what jurisdiction they're in. And having done this in Russia, Poland, Italy, and America, I've seen the gambit, and really, it's there are some services out there, but to put it in perspective, if you want to go and buy your child a bicycle, a child without disabilities, normal bicycle, it costs you what, $100 to $400 at Walmart.
Mhm.
If you buy the same bicycle for a special needs child, $700 used, brand new, $3,500, and there's nothing better about it. It's
Mm.
just special needs. You want to buy a spoon, forget it. Everything is so much more expensive. So that strain adds complexity. And then one other thing I would say is your time commitment limits your ability to hold down a normal job that has 60 hours a week, as I did with it as an attorney. So
Does it with the families that go through this, with the expenses, the label of a disabled bike, a label of a disabled spoon or something of that nature, are there solutions out there? Like, so for example, in the United States of America, are there solutions out there? And or is it really the case of families just not understanding where to go for help and they just try to figure it out? I mean, what seems to be the common denominator that, obviously I would imagine the emotional side of it breaks up a family can do that very quickly, but the financial aspect, are there real solutions out there that are available for people?
there definitely are. Absolutely. The problem is there is the connection. There's a lot of what we call friction in the pipeline. So there are many grants and services that are provided to children, but parents don't always know about it. And then the deadlines are very tricky, even treacherous, even if you might add. So for example, in Florida, we have something called the waiver form. So just to put it in perspective, my son, Eddie, needs about 9 therapies every week. So with a platinum plan from Blue Cross Blue Shield, I'm entitled to 35 therapies a year. So
Mm.
that means in the first 4 weeks, we've used up the entire service. So the only really good solution for that is Medicare, because Medicare has an unlimited, or Medicaid, sorry, has an unlimited number of services. But as we all know, Medicaid is for people of a certain tax income, right?
Mhm.
So Florida has a solution. They have it called the Medicare Waiver Program, which says that if you apply, well, they're basically going to look at the disability. But there's 20,000 people on the waiting list for this, and they take between 900 and 1,000 people off the waiting list each year.
Mm.
So realistically, my son's 14. He'll be more than what, 20 by the time he comes off the waiting list. This is why you have to start these things early.
I want to talk about that in a minute, but I want to learn more about Eddie. How old is he? What is his level of disability? And you also have two other children. How is that the energy between the children? And is he able to communicate?
So Eddie is 14. So I've known him for 12 years. He's, like I said, he's a fantastic little boy. He has he can be the sweetest little boy, and he can turn into a terror, of course. And the terror, the problem with is twofold. And one of the things that parents really need to figure out fast is there's if you and I have an issue, when we can't express ourselves, that's when it gets very frustrating.
I
So
imagine.
now imagine you're nonverbal.
Mm.
How do you express yourself? So
You're gonna.
this is the first April, it's the first frustration you got to get out. You have to figure out a way to understand what your son wants or your child wants. Then you can try to work on solving it. And the other two children, they're not sure how he's going to interact. Is he going to grab at them, or is he going to be loving? And sometimes even if he's loving, maybe he hurts them by accident because he can't control his hands as well or his legs as well.
Mhm.
So there's an interesting, I mean, it's an amazing dynamic to watch. And the kids, you can see the love they have and that they want to be best friends.
Mm-hmm.
How,
That's sweet.
how is the emotions with Eddie, you and everybody else? I mean, can you feel that you feel all that? I mean, do you feel that sense of love around? Is he aware of Is he aware of like, oh, these people love me? Do you feel like he senses that?
Well, Jay, when he grabs my arm and starts kissing it and
That's
keeps rubbing it and kissing it, I
uh,
can be pretty sure that he gets the love.
Mhm.
that's awesome.
And one of the big things with Eddie is when he was when I met him, he was surrounded by well, women and
Female energy.
Female women.
female energy, which was fantastic, but he had no male role model.
Mm.
And immediately he would do whatever I asked him to because it was new to him to have this male role model. And it was a very interesting dynamic, it was a great dynamic for me because getting him to take his medication and everything else was easy. So that is something also I've seen that's different is that the dynamics. And he is so intuitive. To give you an idea, he understands English, Russian, and Italian.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's where. So, hey, let me ask you this. Do you think
Probably understands a lot more than we realize he does
probably,
too.
probably,
Because when, you're lacking in one of your senses, the other ones are much more heightened. So, when people have hearing issues, their eyes are their sound, their vision is heightened or their touch is a lot more heightened than normal. So he could very well have other senses that are a lot more heightened, and that's how he's able to communicate. And he's probably tapping into a higher energy source than even we're tapping into. The key now maybe is for him to start learning how to express it. So how does he express when he wants to, if he's hungry or if he has to use the bathroom, or how does he do that?
So he does know some sign language. So I have to go to the bathroom. He could tell me this. If he wants more, he'll say please or more. And there's certain signals he can give, and he's learned. The problem is some of the sign languages we didn't learn, and so they've been morphed and not used as well. But he can get himself to express what he wants. As far as bathrooms, we just really basically have to keep him on a rigorous schedule
Mm,
in order to avoid having, a mess.
yeah.
But that happens anyway, no matter how good you are. As far as communicating when he's hungry, that's I can see it. I really feel like I can see what he's trying to tell me, as opposed to hear it. And so what I've done is I got into the habit of asking him questions. Now there's a better system. There are these iPads that you can get for the child, and they can point to what they want. The problem is, of course, they're costly, but the second problem is a lot of these children, when you give them an electronic device, they become enthralled with it. Why? Because they touch it and it does something. They're
Mhm.
able to do something. They're able to make an action and have a reaction. And they love that instant feedback. So as soon as you hand them to them, all they want to do is touch and push buttons and do things, as opposed to, you know, a child without disability. So what I've had to do is go backwards to having a board with different Velcroed on pictures. And so I said, do you want this? Do you want this? Point to what you want. And he points on the board what he wants. So
that's
That's
good, Paul.
great.
Do you think
Yeah.
that if you look at your life as it is today and you look about, on a 15 years ago, let's say, and now you look at it forward, do you feel like, what you've learned, your education as an attorney, as an MBA in finance, how do you look at your professional career now? Do you look at that as like, this is what I do, or maybe this is what I do because now I really understand how I can help people? How are you processing all of this? Obviously, we're getting the personal side of it, but the professional side of now, what do you do with what you've learned throughout life?
so I would say this in 15 years ago, I used my profession for me, and to build what I wanted, to build my wealth, etc. Now I'm using my skills to help others as well. And it started with Eddie and seeing, it's like a drug when you help Eddie and you see him make this progress. You just want to do something more. You want to do something more. And I see other parents that are struggling with this and they don't have the education that I have, or for example, or the research abilities.
Mhm.
And I want to help them so that they don't spend the time that I had to spend learning about the system. And it's even more rewarding than, the dollars and cents that I was putting in my pockets before.
Wow, that's such
And
good.
and how do you help parents plan for their child's future? Like if something were to actually happen to the parents and someone else has to step in to care maybe permanently for the child.
So, I mean, obviously, this is a touchy subject, but no one likes to talk about what has to happen to their children in the event of their demise or incapacitation. So, what I try to do is I try to make this as easy a process as possible. So, the first thing I'll do is I'll focus on how do we make a plan that will set the child up for the future, because if you look at a normal couple, they need to make sure that they're able to retire, but their children can fend for themselves after a certain age. A disabled child will never be able to fend for themselves in most cases. And the last thing you want is for the other two children, in my case, to then have to take on the mantle of raising their brother.
Mhm.
It has to be something that you set up that is basically self-sufficient. So what I will do is I will come up with a plan, special needs trust, etc., in order to finance, so that way when the child is 18 or 20, there's enough there that can take care of them. But I do it in a way that when they're 18, they will still be entitled to get Social Security disability, because you need that. If you put it in the wrong instrument, they're not going to get that. So that's what I do there. Now, here's the other thing that used to keep me up at night is, okay, I've got a great plan. This is how I'm going to do it. I'm not going to rely on the state of Florida to tell me where my kids should go in case I predecease them. I have my own trust, I have my estate, everything else. Well, what happens if something happens before I have enough money? Well, that's where I sell them life insurance. And by me having bought life insurance, I was able to breathe better at night. I was able to relax because I knew that's taken care of in the event that something happens before.
Absolutely.
It's amazing that, we never plan on what happens in life, but the ability, it's not so much how you react to it. What happens is really how well you react to it, and how you're reacting to it and really using what you've learned is amazing, brother. It really is. And just what you're doing to help these people out. I mean, and I understand, like, we hear it a lot that more and more families now are giving birth to or are experiencing children with special needs,
Yeah.
whether it be external stuff that's happening or whether it be the foods or whatever it could be. I mean, that's all, those are all, there's all sorts of different variances there. But the fact is that you're right, though. Families need some sense of relief. They need some sense of direction. What do I do? I mean, there's got to be so much confusion. So,
Where do they start?
yeah, where do they start? So I know you're going to have your show that's going to be providing a lot of resources and things like that. Can you tell us the experience about when they go to watch your show, kind of what they're going to get a feel for, what are they going to be watching, what kind of topics, and then maybe how they can reach out to you and say, hey, can we talk to you about our scenario, and can maybe look at seeing if you can help them.
Yeah, Jay, that's perfect for me, because what I'm trying to do with this show and what I will do with this show is it's twofold. One, we'll have experts on and discuss the opportunities and options that parents will have. Two is I will also discuss what I've learned, right? But
Mhm.
the third thing, is I want parents to give me their questions and their solutions. So I can be a collector of information and disseminate it to other parents. Because, well, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We need to rely on everybody else's solutions as well. So that's where I'm going with this show. I have a small booklet that goes through and talks about some of the key points that are important for parents to consider for their own well-being as well, because we all see caretaker syndrome, where a caretaker basically doesn't take care of themselves, and then they collapse, put your mask on first kind of scenario. So that's available to them also. And what I'm going to do at least for now, as long as I can handle the time commitment, is that for every person who buys that book, I'm going to give them a complimentary 20-minute consultation where I can go through and personalize it a little bit, and then understand, give them basically more of a bespoke solution.
Mhm.
That's really good. That's really good. All those links are going to be in the description below, everybody. And if you are, if you do have a child, a family,
Or know somebody with
or
a
know someone
child.
with a child, and listen, we're all here. It takes a village, right? And
Mhm.
to help out. And we've had our soul brother out here that's fighting the good fight for so many of you out there. So I do want to thank you for your service, Mr. Paul Christodoulou. Thank you very much for doing that, and really working on, really, I mean, quite frankly, helping people have a better existence, figuring it out. I mean, you said the 87% of marriages that fail. I mean, just the trauma with the other kids, the raising, all that. There's just a lot that need to be considered. So,
Mhm.
look, everybody, look to have an ally on your side. And here you go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And we really appreciate your energy and the love for not only your family, but for other families that are in the same situation, that you can really help them, cut the learning curve down, help them make sure that their finances are being allocated properly, and make sure that their finances, they're getting the most that they can, considering the variations of what's available to them from a state point of view. So thank you so much. And together with your help, we are turning the universal key to global harmony and creating a unified world. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, tune in often, tell all your friends, and most importantly, may all your dreams come true. Many blessings.